Hello, and welcome everyone to the Emancipated Citizen podcast, where we present to you some of the stories of the bravest men and women out there fighting for their freedom, for their individuality, for their rights to expression, to confession, fighting against authoritarianism. Today, I am presenting to you a much-awaited guest on this podcast, a person who very boldly came out with his beliefs on national television and suffered immensely for it, Mohammed Nofal. Mohammed Nofal has been, I guess, a fairly well-known name in the Egyptian former Muslim community, or even the wider critical community in that sense. And this public journey started in a very spectacular way. Mohammed had the idea of presenting his lack of belief in God and I guess trying to represent non-believers in his country on national television before even his community knew in an environment where that was very highly taboo. In 2018, there was an Islamic talk show that sent an open invitation to atheists to come on and discuss their views. Mohammed Nofal had the idea that it would be a good idea to come on and talk about his views with those people, only to be insulted, accused of being mentally ill for not believing in God, and engaged with it in really bad faith. I mean, you can watch the video right here.
انا ملحد، يعني انا مش بصدق في وجود ربنا.
I'm an atheist, which means I don't believe in the existence of God. What is this?
ده الالحاد.
An
انا مش
atheist, I
محتاج
don't
الدين عشان
believe in
انا
God.
يبقى عندي اخلاق او ان انا ابقى نافع في المجتمع.
I don't need it for morality or to be a member of society. Why don't you believe in God?
ازاي مفيش دليل على وجود ربنا؟ انت بتتكلم ازاي؟ يعني مفيش دليل على وجود ربنا؟ مين اللي قدرك انت تكون موجود هنا كانسان او كبني ادم؟
What do you mean there is no evidence for the existence of God? How did you get here? There are theories, many theories. How did you become a human being? How did you become a human being? Okay, let me explain. So there are theories that explain our existence in the universe. We have the Big Bang Theory. Speaking Arabic. Don't use foreign scientific terms. You are a heretic. Your thought is inappropriate. We cannot promote that.
ما ينفعش ان احنا نروج الافكار يا اصلا هدام. انت ما قلتش ولا كلمه بنقول عندنا مقنعه.
شوف حبيبي.
Look,
هي انت محتاج تتعالج نفسيا.
you have to go to a mental institution. You have serious problems. You cannot be here. He has absolutely nothing convincing, and he is a bad example for the Egyptian youth. And I advise you to go to a mental institution now. Did you expect that when you came on?
Yeah,
there's something absolutely bizarre about this, right? I mean, just looking at it from the perspective of the host there, what are they trying to accomplish there? I mean, it doesn't make them look good either. It's bizarre. It's not to be expected, but at the same time, you do know that it's not an environment that's very friendly to atheists. So, what were you thinking when you took this invitation, and what did you expect out of it?
I'll speak of what I'm thinking right now, and then what I've thought back then. What I think right now is that I would like to thank you for hosting me in the Emancipated Citizen, your podcast.
Thank you very much for being here.
And what I thought back then, during the interview, I was in a total state of shock because I did not really expect this escalation, this sort of escalation of the show. Why I was there? I was there to fight for our freedom in Egypt, freedom of people who are minority, who don't believe in Islam, also freedom for minorities that are being persecuted through Islam. And that was the reason. And for freedom, throughout the history, people lost their lives trying to fight for their freedom. And in Europe, there was also wars that was fought, and people that was persecuted and lost their lives trying to win their freedom back from religious authorities, for example, or so. And without this, we wouldn't have the Western civilization as it is right now. And if I compare the situation right now in the Middle East, I think that is some sort of our dark ages. So we have also to fight for our freedoms. We have to liberate ourselves, and then we can start to build as a healthy, reasonable societies and countries, and adapt values that actually would make us happy, productive, and good, and and be able to contribute something good for the whole world, not only for us.
I mean, touching on the point that you mentioned about us being in the dark ages of the society's history. I mean, you don't even have to go to the Middle Ages to see how different society was, and how people had a lot more free range to talk about important issues like this. You can just go back like 70 years to the mid 20th century, right, and see that you had Egyptian authors like Ismail Adham, who wrote a series of essays with the title "Why I'm an Atheist," published in Egypt. He lived and died in Egypt peacefully. The Saudi Arabian atheist thinker Abdullah Qasimi, after not being able to safely live in Saudi Arabia at the time, actually ended up living in Egypt and living the rest of his life in Egypt. So, I mean, in the mid 20th century, of course, the legacy of Gamal Abdel Nasser and the socialist kind of revolution is very mixed, but there was undoubtedly more enfranchisement for religious minorities, for non-believers, and this, like the reactionary Islamist supremacist movement, has really taken hold since then, and nobody who's not an Orthodox Salafi Muslim can have any say in Egyptian politics nowadays, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, somehow. I mean, for example, if we speak of Azhar, it's a religious authority in Egypt. One could say it's a university. It has schools. It's an institution that brainwash children from childhood until they are adults, and they have like armies that try to intellectually fight any progress in the society. So army of people that and they have political influence, they have authorities, and I think Azhar is one of the big reasons why why Egypt is in this difficult situations on almost all levels, not only political but also financial and social, and so um, that's how I see the situation regarding that, actually.
Would you like to elaborate on the societal influence of Al Azhar and I guess the way in which it has transformed Egyptian society in more recent decades?
Yeah, after the revolution, after we got rid of our no, I will even go before our revolution, getting rid of our king. I would say that Azhar did always exist and did always have an influence, and then this influence might have not been enough, and then the Muslim Brotherhood, did emerge, and I think the emergence of Muslim Brotherhood in 1928 was like an important point in our life in Egypt, and there was always this somehow love-hate relationship between Azhar, that is normally backed by the government, and the Muslim Brotherhoods, and this sort of dynamics did create, I think, waves of Islamizations to the Egyptian society that led to the current situation where in few years Egyptian women went from without hijab to all wearing a hijab, like a decade or so. Um, and I think your country is also to blame, partially, Saudi Arabia, because this Islamic movements were also supported by Saudi Arabia, and some people say now, like, Saudi Arabia started to liberate itself partially, but then we are still stuck many years in the chaos that Wahhabism did create.
Very much so. Very much so, yeah. Would it be kind of a fair assessment to describe it as a sort of a state-controlled clergy, and the Muslim Brotherhood is more of an independent reactionary movement that wants to actually push the government further?
I think what I try to say is that if the Azhar did not exist, the Muslim Brotherhood wouldn't have existed.
You're saying that the prominent figures from the Muslim Brotherhood emerged from the Al-Azhar institution.
Azhar has put the foundation of extremism. Okay, so the small foundations that is being now described as moderate Islam, and then these foundations would be actually manipulated by extremists that are maybe like Muslim Brotherhood or Salafis or so. And if Azhar did not exist, then there is nobody to put this religious foundation that other extremists and jihadist organizations build on. And that's regarding Egypt.
But this assessment of Azhar and its teaching being moderate is very far from
it's being
true.
described as moderate, but it's being far from moderate. Yeah, certainly. And I see professors even in German universities that are from Azhar and teaching in German university Islam or so, and they incorporate these extremist ideologies of Azhar and being sold here in Germany, for example, as moderate Islam. And I see Western people do not understand that. They don't understand the difference. They cannot read between the lines.
If you don't understand the substance of it, it is kind of frustrating to see oftentimes that you have this one institution that has an academic presentation where we study the edicts of our religion and what one is supposed to do and that kind of thing, and with all of those scholarly references and so on, go to say that you're obligated as a Muslim to fight people until they declare that your religion is correct, or they pay you protection money, that they don't have any power in politics, that you rule over them. But as long as it's kind of presented in a kind of calm academic manner and not very directly being implemented into politics where you're disenfranchising religious minorities, then you're still considered a moderate. But once somebody takes those ideas and actually applies them in politics, then the moderate suddenly becomes extreme, which obviously is not a model that holds up to scrutiny.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, did you also grow up in a religious environment like that? Was your family religious in that way? Did you grow up, I don't know, being told to hate religious minorities? How was that for you, and how did you start coming out of this mindset?
Well, yeah, I was raised in a Muslim family, yeah, and this Muslim family was a little bit more Islamic than your average Egyptian Muslim family. And for example, I used to go to a school in summer to learn Quran, so I did not have a normal summer vacation or so. And I used to go to the mosque from early age, at 6 or so, more than once a day. And with 8, I started to have doubts in Islam because some things start not to make sense for me. Like, why should I just believe someone? Like, people lie. And as a teenager, I started to see the West, and I started to notice that Islam promises us heaven or the paradise in afterlife, and promises us also excellence in life.
So, those were the first 15 minutes of our 25th episode, Atheism, Identity, and the Fight for Reform in Egypt with Mohammed Nofal. If you've made it this far, I appreciate that, and I hope you're interested in listening to the rest of this episode, which is, as of now, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, a lot of other podcasting platforms. Try to find it wherever you prefer to listen to your podcast. It is usually more convenient. You can listen to it on the way. I'm going to be uploading all of my episodes week by week by chronological sequence, so it is going to be a few months until the full episode is available on YouTube. So yeah, if you're interested, listen on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, what have you. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.